Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury beauty. Today we have a whole bunch of new products to go through. These are not the first time that I'm using any of these, but a couple of them I've only used like a couple of times. So we're going to be going through, sort of a get ready with me while I go over the products, but then we also have additional looks and everything with the Natasha Denona palette at the end. I've gotten a little carried away. I have to say, I'm a little obsessed with the palette. But let's go ahead and get started. So let me first introduce the Danessa Myricks. She came out with a Yummy Skin line. Oh, I just got a bubble there. But this is the Glow Serum. So it comes in two shades. This is the lighter one called Main Squeeze. And you can see that it's kind of like, if you're making caramel, it's like that blonde caramel sauce before it actually continues caramelizing and turning our traditional deeper shade. So it blends out, and it's actually, it blends out very nicely. So it gives me kind of like a little bit of peachy golden hue in certain lighting, but it's definitely light enough that it's something that I can wear on its own. We'll talk about that in a second. This is also the Yummy Skin foundation. Now, this is refillable packaging. You can see it's like a squeeze tube. This is plastic here that you can squeeze, and it's, it comes out through here. I have shade 4N. It's thick. This is definitely full coverage. So this is shade 4N, and you really only need a little bit, as you're gonna see in the demo. So before we move on to the demo, I just wanted to swatch it with the Cle de Peau, the new Radiant Cream. So here's the Cle de Peau Radiant Cream, and I have shade I-10. This is another like thicker full coverage foundation. I have to say that the Cle de Peau actually feels like a thinner formulation. I think coverage wise, the Cle de Peau and the Danessa Myricks, I think they're kind of similar in coverage level, but the Danessa Myricks, it just feels a little bit thicker, a little bit tackier on the skin. Like it really kind of like stays put, essentially. And as we're looking here at the demos of the primer and the foundation, you can see that you really only need a little bit of these items. So one of the ways that I've noticed Danessa Myricks actually applies the foundation is she uses more of the paddle style foundation brush. And sometimes I've actually seen her like thin it out a little bit with, a little bit of the primer or something like that if you want lighter coverage. But this is one that you really, she kind of spreads it out on her little pan and then just picks up a little bit with the brush. So I think going in, dabbing it on the face first actually gives you a little bit more coverage than you would the other way. So I think this is definitely a buildable foundation, but I would say full medium all the way up to full coverage. So like a true medium to full coverage. You can definitely dilute it with other products, but if you're using just the foundation, that's kind of how it's going to go. Now, a little bit of information about these products. The primer is a skin-loving, hydrating, radiant priming serum with antioxidant boosting ingredients. It's pretty lightweight on the skin. It's definitely comfortable enough that you can wear it, all day without anything on top of it. It's not like sticky or anything. And it does give a bit of a sheen. It looks really beautiful on its own or underneath things. And I have to say, I like the fact that it gives you this like sheen or radiance to it without any of that like pearly effect, or you're really not seeing the color so much. Honestly, there's no like shiny particles or anything either. It's like really finely milled. It's really more about the light catching your skin. Now, as for the serum foundation, as I mentioned, this is a refillable product. So the top and the bottom both unscrew, and then that middle portion that you squeeze to release the product, that's what comes as a refill. Refills are already available for sale, so you can buy those separately. Now, both of these products have a scent or a fragrance to them, but they're not the same. The priming serum, that actually has a whole bunch of fruit extracts in the ingredients, and I think that's lending itself to this fruity scent that you get. It's, strawberry and kiwi are two of the extracts in there, and I would say that's kind of the mix that I smell the most on it. It's kind of like a fruit cocktail type of scent. It's not overpowering, it does fade, but you know, you'll notice it when you're putting on the priming serum. Now the foundation also has a fragrance to it. It's not the same fragrance. I would say this one's a little bit more subtle and it smells a little bit more like a little floral, but maybe a little bit of fruit mixed in there as well, but it's subtle. It's not really all that noticeable and it fades right away, but they are definitely not going to be the same fragrance between the products. Now, overall, so far, I have to say that I'm really impressed with these products. I have already, you know, I've worn them for full like 12, 13 hours to see how they perform, and they performed great. So I actually, you know, the first time I used this foundation, I put on a little bit too much. It was a little bit too heavy for me personally. And I do think if you put on too much, you know, it doesn't look as good because you can see, you know, that you've got like a foundation type thing on there. And then if you go and powder it, you know, it's not necessarily, you can see some of the powder sitting on there. But if you spread it out and you're using the amount like I used today in the demo, I think it actually looks great. And if you powder it, you know, I don't have any issues powdering it when I use Dele's product. So I think overall it's really nice. I'm still kind of playing with it to see exactly how much I need, but you can see that you really don't need a lot. The priming serum seems to work really well. I haven't tested it with any other foundation products yet, but it definitely gives this glowy, dewy look to the skin. Now, as for how the foundation sits on the skin, it does not completely dry down. There's a little bit of tackiness to it, more like a little moisture, kind of like if you put like sunscreen on a couple hours ago and you still feel like just a little bit left on your skin. It's kind of like that type of feeling. So overall though, I have to say I'm enjoying it, but I've only used it a couple times so far, so I'm still testing it out. Everything's good so far with the Danessa Myricks, and I have shade 4N, which I think is actually a really good match for me. Moving on to the cheeks, I used one of my favorite products. This is the Burberry Essentials Glow Palette, and it's available on the Burberry website. I used 01 Fair to Light Medium, and all I used this time is the cream contour shade. So there are 6 shades in this palette. 2 are like a contour type shade. There's a powder version and a cream version. It's the only cream product in there. So I used that, and it looks really dark and scary in the pan, but it's one of my favorites. And I used the foundation brush to kind of buff that out. I did wipe it off in between, but I really like, you know, how it looks when you kind of buff it in with that. And a little bit goes a long way. But this is definitely one of my all-time favorite palettes. I highly recommend it. And I have had a request for an update on this palette. So if there are any like comparisons or anything that you would like me to address, please be sure to let me know down below in the comments as well. And I have both of the Burberry Essentials Glow palettes. Now for blush, I use the Cle de Peau Cream Blush in shade 02. This is my favorite cream blush formula. I think it is the best. It stays put. It, you know, has a natural look to it. It's not like too shiny. It's not too matte. It's really beautiful on the skin. And shade 2 is kind of like a little pop of a pink. So I use the foundation brush for this as well. And you can see when I go in and put it directly on my cheeks, versus using the brush straight into the jar. I think the jars are actually the perfect size for a typical foundation brush or a cheek brush. So that's typically how I do it. And I just think it just blends seamlessly on the skin. For highlight, I went in with the Phytosurgence Fresh Fog, and it's one of the Spectral Shine products. Now they have reformulated this to make it a little creamier since I purchased mine, but it gives a really gorgeous sheen to the skin. The one I have is a little bit firm in the pan, so it's a little bit harder to kind of buff that into the skin, but I have to say it works beautifully with the Danessa Myricks foundation, and the foundation doesn't budge, even though I have to like kind of like use more pressure to kind of buff that on and transfer the product. The foundation stays put. So let's just take a look at those swatches real quickly as well. This is the Burberry Essentials Glow palette. This palette's made in Italy. It's 15.5 grams. I forget, I think it's like $90. So let's put this one up here too. And I mean, look how dark that is. It's scary, right? But it really, you only need a tiny bit and it buffs out and it gives you just the right shade. So I think it's a really wonderful product. It's my favorite like cream contour bronze type product. And then for the Cle de Peau cream blush, these are, what are they? 6 grams each. 2-year shelf life though. And these are, I think, oh, they're made in Japan. So I really love these. This one here is, just trying not to go over a swatch, but this is 2, and you can see that it's going to be a soft pop of pink. And there's a little bit, it leans cool, but it's not going to be one that's like overly cool. So it is a cooler tone pink though. I think it's a really beautiful shade. And here's the Phytosurgence, and this is really hard to swatch. I mean, you can see how you know, firm it is in the pan. It almost feels like it's dry, but you buff it on and you get this like beautiful, beautiful sheen. Look at that. And it ends up just looking incredibly natural on the skin. I really love this product. So when I first got it, you know, it took me a long time to really appreciate it because it is harder to use than a typical like cream highlight product. But I do really, really like it. So if you are checking out Phytosurgence, I would definitely, you know, recommend trying this. They've got some great products. Now, as we move on to eyes, before we actually get into the palette, we're gonna just start off with some swatches here of the eyeliners I use. This is the Givenchy Cold Couture Waterproof Eyeliner in number 4, Cobalt. You can see it's kind of like a bright blue, really beautiful shade. And it actually, you know, it'll set down and stay put, but it's very creamy to work with in the beginning. And this is the Danessa Myricks Chrome Liner in Rose Quartz. And I love the reflect on this. So I just broke my tip rubbing too hard, but look at that. You can see it goes like yellow and pink. So as we're looking at this demo here, I always start off with the Viseart Seamless Skin Eye Primer or Seamless Eye Primer. I absolutely love this eye primer. It gives me just a really smooth canvas, and the Natasha Denona shadows just blend like a dream, either with or without, but I do feel like on my skin, they just blend even better with the Viseart primer. And I have to say, you know, I don't have all of Natasha Denona's palettes. I have quite a few of them and I really love them, but this one might be my favorite. So I put the Givenchy eyeliner on first, kind of smudged that out and did like a thin layer of the color over that just along the lash line to make it a little darker there. And then I took the deeper blue shade, which is matte, in the Natasha Denona palette. This is the shade Bubble. And I put that kind of on top of that, followed by Airy and then Brisk, which is a very soft like aqua green. And then I use the shade Duet, which might be the best shade in this palette. It looks pink, but there's like kind of this aqua blue kind of shift to it. So depending on how the light hits, it actually ends up kind of looking a little bit like Airy and Brisk. So I layered that on top just so, you know, kind of getting a little bit more of all of those shades there. And it's a sheer enough shadow that you can layer it on other things. You can also put it on, you know, on its own. It looks beautiful. And I have a demo of that as well. You can also try it wet, which is stunning as well, more metallic looking when it's wet. In the crease, I did use Feather, which is a soft matte pink, just to kind of blend that a little bit more with Duet, because I knew I wanted to go in with Duet up there. And then also the shade Illusion, which looks white in the pan, but it has a pink reflect. And I absolutely love putting this kind of like on top of the crease, like above the crease going into the brows. I think it's just a beautiful shade and it just works really well as a transition shade for any of the shades in this palette as well. So formula wise, I have used every shade in the palette and I have not had issues with any of them. You've got a wide variety of, you know, finishes in here. You've got her creamy mattes and her regular mattes. You've got, you know, the shimmers and so forth. And everything in here works beautifully. Now, some of the shades in this palette are repeats from the Tropic palette, I believe. Now, I don't have that one, so I can't compare those. But if that's a palette that you already have, you might want to double check that before purchasing this one. However, I think this is a fantastic palette. It's really inspiring to play with. You know, there have been a lot of neutrals out this year. Even before that, usually when we see something colorful, they're going to be a little bit darker or a little bit brighter. This one's just fun. It's spring-like, and there's just so many things you can do. My favorite look that I've done with this is probably a rainbow eye. And you know, I'm not that great with eyeshadow, and you know, I feel like it just looked beautiful. Like, it looked good, even though I don't have the skill to do any of those like beautiful techniques that other people do. So it's really easy for the everyday consumer to use and to blend these and to get some of those more flawless looks that you see like on Instagram and so forth. So we are going to come back to the palette and take a closer look at that after we finish going through today's products. But on my eyes, I have the ESUM mascara. This is new. So they actually sent this to me several weeks ago. So I've been using this for 3 weeks now. And I've been able to, you know, really test how it performs and with different like products, you know, if I have something like oilier or creamier on my face, so forth. And I have to say it's performed very beautifully. So according to ESUM, this is a high performance mascara that delivers ultra volume and defining length for beautiful lashes. It's developed with an innovative blend of natural waxes and flexible polymers. This cream-based formula delivers buildable, soft touch volume. The organic extract of jojoba oil and candelilla wax deeply conditions and protects lashes. We also have a semi-conical brush head that's engineered with short to medium stiff nylon bristles so that you can really grip each lash at the root. So you get instant dimension, length, separation, and curl. And it only comes in black. So it's got black pigments, glossy finish. It's long wear, smudge proof, water resistant, vegan, cruelty free. And I have to say, I think it's really a nice mascara. So I have been using this. Muse Beauty Pro was kind enough to send this to me in advance. It's available for sale as of today, and it retails for $26 US. So again, thank you so much to Muse Beauty Pro for sending this to me. But just another note is that all of the ingredients included in this mascara are non-toxic, and they're free from formaldehydes, parabens, petrolatum, PEGs, sulfates, talc, and triethanolamine, TEA. So overall, what I've noticed about this mascara is that it does give you volume. If you continue to layer it, you can really build up that volume. You can get, you know, a very full volume lash look with this, where, you know, you have more product, your lashes look a little bit closer together, more full. And if you want to just go in with one layer, you get a little bit of volume and some lengthening as well. And it does help with separation. So I don't always have to go in with like my lash comb or anything afterwards. And I typically use it with one coat because I usually go light on mascara, but I have tried building this up a lot. And you can see I do have a demo where I went in with like 2 full coats, which is a lot for me. And you can see how much volume you can get from that. So you can go in even further than that. And yeah, it's a really nice mascara, and I think the price point is really nice. So this is definitely one that I would purchase. So, you know, it does not be like my Sisley So Stretch or my Surratt Noir Lash Tint, but it definitely would go in my top few. And if I'm looking for something volumizing, this would definitely be one that I would choose. All right, so we're not going to dwell on the brows, but I used the Gucci brow pencil in shade 01 today, which is the taupe shade. Just kind of brushed that through, and I didn't top it with anything. On the lips, I used the Valentino. This is one of their new nude shades. It's a matte lipstick, and I used shade 108A. So I just kind of dabbed that on, rubbed my lips together a little bit. I took a little bit of the Sisley lip liner in nude, just very softly over the edges, kind of blurred that together. And then I topped everything with the Tom Ford lip gloss in the Buff, which is pretty much clear, and it just has some shine and some sparkle. And that's basically it. So let's take a look at the lipstick here. Let me find like a clean spot here, and we'll put that right here next to the liners. So this is 108A, and you can see it's a really beautiful nude shade. There's a little bit of peach, a little bit of pink in it, but it's just a really gorgeous, like natural shade on the lips. And then the Tom Ford gloss here, this is in the buff. I use this one all the time actually because I use it a lot as a topper. Let's see where I can put it. But you can see it's like basically a clear gloss with some shimmer. I mean, there's a tiny little bit of like a champagne pigment in there, but honestly, you don't really notice it. If I don't have something underneath, it just looks like a clear gloss with a little bit of shimmer. It reflects the light nicely. So I've been using the gloss a lot. As for the lip liner, the Sisley lip liners, these are really, really great because they just stay put, yet they are creamy and comfortable on the lips and they last all day. So this is the shade Nude right here. You can see it's just gonna be a neutral brown. It does lean a little bit warm. Okay, so let's take a look at the Natasha Denona Pastel palette. Now, first of all, look at this beautiful packaging, and the box matches, okay? So here's the box. Box has all of the information. It has all of your like color codes and all of that on there as well. This palette though is just stunning. I have to say, you know, it brings back, you know, memories of childhood and so forth. You know, it's kind of got that ice cream kind of a vibe to it, candy, cupcakes, that kind of thing. But when I was little, I used to make a ton of friendship bracelets. These are the 4 shades I picked for my DMC floss every single time. So, well, I guess were 4 shades, so you can't really see, but you know, I had this aqua and the purple and kind of that cornflower blue and the pink, and yeah, that's what it makes me think of. So let's go ahead and swatch this while we talk a little bit about it. But these are going to be your first shades. And you have kind of this pink. This is called Tulle, and it's going to be a matte. And then we have Illusion, which is the one that looks white, but it has that pink shift. And then this shimmery metallic kind of aqua shade, which is Mint Frost. And then the purple here is Bora. And it's kind of like one of those, let's just add a little more, this like bright orchid purple shade. All right, so moving on, this palette is 19.25 grams, and it's made in Italy, and it has a 2-year shelf life. So here are the next few. So this was Bora that we talked about, and then we have Dainty, which is going to be a soft pink shimmer shade. And then we have another matte. This is Brisk. And we have Adriatic, which, you know, they can look a little bit similar, but you can see this one's greener. There's a little bit more green in here, and this has a little bit frostier metallic to it. And then this is the red. This is Starlit. Moving on to the next 4. This is going to be a soft matte, like cantaloupe orange. Then we have a cornflower blue, a buttercup yellow, and then this beautiful shifty shade that's like pink and bluish purple all together, and a little bit of aqua in there. So over here then, starting off, the orange is called Bellini. And then we have Bubble. Let's just add a little bit more bubble so you can see that a little bit better. So here's Bubble, Limoncello, and Duet. Love it. Last 3, we have Airy, we have Zest, and Feather. And let's just add a little bit more feather here. And you can see there are 2 different matte pinks here, but this one's gonna be cooler, has a little bit more of like a purpley vibe to it. And Tulle at the beginning is going to be a warmer pink. It's also a little bit deeper. All right, so before we go into the demos, I just wanted to give you guys a few comparisons. This is the Viseart palette in Bohem Dream. Just wanted to show you how these compare. We're just gonna swatch a few. So you can see that the Viseart does have some, you know, deeper shades in here as well. But let's start with these 4 here. All right, so we'll put the lighter pink, There's a brighter pink. You can see how much brighter that is. Here's light blue and bright blue. So you can see overall Bohem Dream is going to be, you know, brighter in general. And I also wanted to take a look at Koi. So this is the Koi palette from Viseart. I actually haven't even gotten to use this one yet, but let's just take a look. We've got this yellow, this blue, kind of this like peachy shade here. So let's take a look at these ones. So here's the peachy shade next to the orange. You can see that these are metallics, by the way. Here's that aqua. And let's put the yellow down here a little bit more. You can see the yellows can be more vibrant. You know, I don't have anything in my collection that dupes any of these. And I have to say that this duet shade, let me just show you this one wet. So I just got my finger a little wet here. And I mean, look at that shift. Isn't that beautiful? Like, you can tell I'm like really, really love this color. So here, we'll put it over here with the dry one. And I know on camera it's a little bit harder to see the shift, but it's just stunning because this color shifts like this. This is what it looks like. I mean, it's amazing. So I have quite a few demos because, you know, honestly, I've been like kind of obsessed with this palette since it arrived. So I just keep trying new things, really, really enjoying this. So I'm going to kind of give you guys my thoughts while we look at the demos on the screen. But I have to say that, you know, all of these eyeshadows, they perform beautifully. They blend beautifully. And although, you know, even if you don't like pastels, you might think this palette isn't that wearable. It's not that everyday, but this blends beautifully with any neutral shadows as well. So in the demos, I do have one where I used it with the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. So you can kind of see how you can use this just kind of as a pop of color if you want. This also goes beautifully with some like deeper shades that you might have, like not even neutrals, you know, but more colorful ones as well. This is a great way to kind of mix in with some other palettes. These obviously are great for like one and done looks. You can use them for like liners and things on neutral eyes and so forth. So it doesn't have to be a scary palette. I think it's actually so much fun. Just, it's fun to play with. I think personally, I'm enjoying these lighter, brighter springtime looks, but if that's not your vibe, you know, maybe it's not the best palette for you to purchase, but if you did have it and you wanted to kind of mix it in with neutrals and everything, it performs beautifully with them. And it just gives you like it gives you options. All of these shades in here for the most part are light enough that you can use them for inner corner work and so forth as well. So you can get kind of that accent color. These creamy metallic shades and so forth, they go on beautifully. You can foil the shadows. These can be used wet or dry. So they, you know, they can be really transformative. And they can also kind of play in the background a little bit depending on how you want to apply them. So I just think this palette itself is a total winner. And I'm really loving it. So out of the demos I've done, I did quite a few, and I have to say I really enjoyed all of the looks I created, but my favorite, as I mentioned before, was that rainbow eye. And I just think, you know, for somebody with my skill level, that's something that doesn't necessarily always turn out well with shadows. You know, it can be a little bit harder to get more of that even blend because you're working in those smaller spaces and you run the risk more of mixing your colors. And I feel like this was effortless. It was just so easy. And I just think it looks so good. So I could just totally finish that off with some like black eyeliner and, you know, volumizing mascara. And it's just like a wow look. So I'm really loving this. And yeah, I would love to know what you guys think. So, you know, I'm going to sign off now and we'll finish the demos to some music, but I hope this was helpful. And I have to say, overall, I'm really enjoying all of the products that I tried here. The standout that I used today is definitely the Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette. So I would love to know what you think about all of the products that I used today, not just the Natasha Denona palette, but let me know if you want to see more information on the Danessa Myricks and, you know, any of the other products here. Again, if you have any requests about the Burberry palette, I will be having that in something very soon. So definitely let me know if you have any requests to be included with that video. And thank you so much for tuning in. So I hope this was helpful. I will see you very soon. So have a great day and stay safe and healthy.